Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
I'm appreciative of the fact that Debbie Schlussel, who is a longtime conservative media star, also a very prominent attorney and commentator, always outspoken, always interesting, even if you end up disagreeing with her conclusions, is willing to come on the radio with me from time to time and talk about the news and give us her very unique and always very passionate movie reviews. If you've not yet heard Debbie Schlussel, you are in for a treat. She is not only an attorney, an author, a political commentator, and a film critic, but she's someone that is outspoken when it comes to absolutely everything. Debbie, it's great to talk with you. Thanks for joining me. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you, and a belated Merry Christmas and a future Happy New Year.
Thank you. I'll take both. Debbie, what do you do for Hanukkah usually?
It's a minor holiday in Judaism as compared with Christmas being a major holiday in Christianity. And so we just light the menorah every night for 8 nights, an increasing number of candles. And it has to burn for at least half an hour. No,
I understand. I understand the menorah rules. I'm wondering if you have any specific, I don't know, Debbie Schlussel traditions or anything that you do with family or friends that's kind of fun.
Well, I usually make sure to have at least one sitting, and in this case, I've had a few already, of potato pancakes, otherwise known as latkes, that we typically have with applesauce and so on. And, when I was a kid, we would play dreidel. So that's pretty much it. It's not, like I said, it's not a major holiday, so I don't really have that much. Not really.
All right,
no.
Fair enough. At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. My guest is Debbie Schlussel. Somebody sent me a tweet from New York Governor Kathy Hochul saying that Hanukkah reminds us that even in the darkest times, a light will always shine through. I was proud to join our Jewish neighbors to celebrate its message of hope and community ahead of Hanukkah. Now, I thought that was a pretty innocuous tweet, the kind of thing that you'd hear from any politician, really. But one listener, an Orthodox Jewish listener, wrote me that he thought that was inappropriate, that's not really what Hanukkah is all about, and that I should ask you about Governor Hochul's statement and if that, in fact, misrepresents Hanukkah in any way.
Well, I wouldn't say it was inappropriate. I think she's probably trying to ingratiate herself with Jewish people because New York has more Jews than even Jerusalem. But I do agree with the person that it's not what Hanukkah is about, and it's funny that he should say that and you should bring this up, because I was at an event on the night of the 25th in downtown Detroit to light the giant menorah, and I was really taken aback at all the wokeness, and everybody was saying, "Oh, it's about the light, seeing the light in the darkness." That's a nice jingoistic generalization. Hanukkah really was about the Jews fighting for their freedom, fighting these enemies who wanted to take away their freedoms, the Assyrian Greeks. But even bigger than that was that, first of all, it went on not for 8 days. 8 days is the thing with the olive oil and the lighting of the menorah in the temple. But it actually went on for about 30 years, that Judah the Maccabee and Matityahu, or Matthew the Maccabee, the leaders of the Maccabees and their troops, fought not only the Assyrian Greeks, but even bigger than that was the Hellenist Jews, who were the Jews that were basically the, I don't want to say apostates, they were the assimilationists, the ones who today I would call the woke liberal Jews, or what I also call the cuck Jews. And I saw a lot of that going on in downtown Detroit, and like all of them that were all giving these speeches about the light. It's about seeing the light in someone's face. It wasn't about that. It was about fighting for freedom, fighting your enemy and defeating them, just like it's important now for Israel to defeat Hamas and its other Iranian-funded enemies. But it was also, again, about the enemy, more so the enemy within the Jewish people, because the Maccabees actually killed more Jews that were Hellenist Jews than they did Assyrian Greeks, because these people were trying to destroy the religion from within. And unfortunately, I think today, a lot of these people really are, they present themselves as major leaders and forces in Judaism, and they are not. And I would say today those are people like Chuck Schumer, who supported the Obama-Iran deal and who is attacking Israel and so on. I would say it's people like Doug Emhoff, who is enabling a lot of that baloney. And he also sent out a tweet that had a similar baloney jingoistic thing about the light in the darkness and all that. That's nice. It's a nice saying or trite phrase, but it's just really not what the holiday was about. And it just bothers me when people try to distill it into that. And they don't want to say what it's really about because it offends their liberal woke sensitivities. And when I was at this thing, they were passing out these metal necklaces, and I thought they were these metal dog tag things that said bring the hostages home, but it wasn't that. They gave those out last year. This year it said dare to be the light, which I said to the woman, what does that mean? It sounds like a bad slogan for Chanel number 5. I mean, it did. And it just especially bothered me because when I was at this event, they had this Detroit City Councilwoman who voted to boycott Israel and to call for a ceasefire like early in November of 2023, right after the attacks. And they had her up on stage, but not the 2 Detroit City Council people who voted against that and spoke out about its unfairness. And I said to them, dare to be the light. This is jingoism. Why don't you dare to be a righteous person and not embrace your enemies like the Hellenist Jews who the Maccabees slew? So I agree, with that person. I'm not offended by what she said. I don't think she really knows anything about the holiday, and somebody just wrote that baloney for her. But
gotcha. Fair enough.
It's annoying.
This must have been some menorah lighting you were at, Debbie.
Oh, my God. It was all these horrible people, I have to tell you. I just was so mad.
If you're just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. We're talking with Debbie Schlussel. On a more positive note, Debbie, I know you don't necessarily keep in touch with Sean Hannity anymore, but you used to be on his show quite a bit. I guess you guys have lost touch. He apparently now is engaged to Ainsley Earhart. Are you looking at Sean as potentially the one that got away?
Oh my gosh. So he got me blackballed from Fox News because when he was here in Detroit for an event and for a show that I was on, I wouldn't go back to his hotel with him. So no, no, thank you. I'm not interested in people that look like the lesbian gym teacher. But apparently that's going to be Ainsley's third husband. So congratulations.
Wow. So needless to say, you're probably not going to be on the invite list for the wedding, potentially.
No, thank you. Yikes. Look at what this guy looks like now. Yuck.
Well, look, we all can't help but aging, right, Debbie?
Well, but I mean, it's not about aging. It's about taking care of yourself. Just yikes.
Well, all right. I guess.
And you know what it is? It's just about when people are on the same as the inside as they look on the outside, and it's not pleasant.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. So be it.
When somebody is talking about, we had our church inside our house, which is interesting to me. I never heard of somebody having their own church for 2 people inside their house, but whatever. I'm not Christian. I'm sure it's possible. I've never had anybody have a synagogue inside their house. But if you're pretending you're so devout and everything and that's how you met this person, how devout is it when you are married to somebody else and you're constantly on the prowl for other people. It's not very devout.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how that relationship plays out. That's for sure. I long ago gave up judging anybody else's relationship because I've learned you have no idea what's going on in somebody else's lives.
No, you do not.
That's for sure. You're still single, though, as far as we know, right, Debbie?
Proudly, happily.
Proudly and happily. Would you want to be married?
No, I enjoy my freedom, and I couldn't do a lot of the things I do if I was in a relationship. I just am very busy, and I, haven't met the right person. And when I did meet the right person, unfortunately, we all have tragedies in our life. That person passed away. Oh. So, stuff happens in life.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. On to the movies. There are a lot of movies. This is a big movie weekend for a lot of folks because a lot of people are off. A lot of people may look to catch up on some of the year-end reviews because now the Golden Globe nominations are out, so they may look to see what was, getting some buzz. Before we get into specifics, and we'll try and cover as many as we can here, were there any movies this year that stood out to you as among the best, that if people are using this weekend to catch up on movies, that you would say you absolutely must see blank?
So I'm not sure if anything is you absolutely must see. I mean, there are movies, there wasn't anything that I thought, oh my God, this is the greatest movie ever. But I would say there were a few that I thought were very good. I really enjoyed A Complete Unknown, which came out on Christmas Day. That's the story of Bob Dylan and how he became famous. It kind of ends I would say early in his career, but I found it very entertaining. I loved the clothing, the cars, the furniture, just all the style of the 60s when this takes place. The woman who plays Joan Baez is just a beautiful woman with a beautiful voice. I would say in both counts better than the actual real Joan Baez. But I thought it was an entertaining movie. I'm not the hugest Bob Dylan fan. I'm not against him. I don't dislike him. I think he's talented, or was talented. Now I'm not so sure anymore of stories I've heard. But, nowadays he was in a concert here in Detroit, for example, last summer, and he didn't sing and just read some poetry, and people were very upset. And there's kind of a scene sort of like that in this movie. But I thought it was very entertaining. I'm not a fan of Timothée Chalamet. I don't think he's the world's greatest actor, but I have to say, he was very good in this. He nailed it. I thought he really captured Bob Dylan, his mannerisms. The one thing that was a little off-putting, and I think this is in a lot of movies where people play famous people that I've noticed lately, is the voice. He tries too hard to sound like Bob Dylan, and it threw me off a little bit. It's weird. It's like when Dennis Quaid tried to sound like Ronald Reagan. Mm-hmm. It's a little weird, and so on. You
weren't crazy about the Reagan movie?
No, I did like the Reagan movie. I just didn't I thought it was good. I didn't like and I thought he captured Reagan very well. I just thought it was he tried so hard to sound like Reagan. It was a little weird. It's a little off-putting, and I don't think it's necessary. You don't have to sound exactly like the person. I think for Bob Dylan, the singing part, he sounds just like him. He does the singing, Chalamet. But the talking, with Bob Dylan, he's got a very distinct voice, so maybe that was more appropriate. But it just was a little distracting at the beginning. You get used to it. I also really liked The Substance, which is Demi Moore, who, my gosh, she's like 60, and she plays a woman that turns 50 in this movie, and she looks like she's 40. I think in this movie they made her look a little older, but she looks great. I thought the movie was very interesting. I liked the way it was shot. It's a woman who hosts a nationally syndicated fitness TV show, and then she turns 50 and she gets fired by her boss, Dennis Quaid, and she's replaced by a younger person. But the younger person is actually her, because she finds this mysterious company that sends her this shot that she takes, and every week she has to switch back to this younger person. It's a very weird movie, but I like weird sometimes. In this case, I thought it was very cool. I didn't like the last 30% of the movie because I didn't like the ending, and I just think it went too far, and it was just like, I just thought it was nonsensical. I mean, it made sense, but it was just ridiculous. But I thought she was very good. It was very entertaining. I love the way it was shot, and I think anyone will find it interesting. It was a very cool movie, The Substance, and Margaret Qualley plays the younger her. I also like this movie, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this on the air, but it rhymes with grass, but without the GR. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, I think
okay. My Old Ass. I like this movie. You wouldn't think I would like it because it's kind of woke a little bit. The main character is a lesbian, and she lives in this farm, I think like in Maine or Rhode Island. It's a cranberry farm. Her family wants to pass it on, but she doesn't want to do that. And one night she goes out with friends to this island to go camping, and they smoke too much. I think they do mushrooms, actually. They're not smoking. They do mushrooms, and she meets her older self. And she thinks it's just a hallucination. But then, after they're off the island, she gets phone calls from this person that's her old self. And I just thought it was a very cool, interesting idea. Because it mixes science fiction with something that seems like reality. And this person is giving her advice and telling her what's going to happen and tells her about some things. And it's kind of a sad movie, but I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was very interesting. And I would recommend it, My Old Ass. I also really liked on Netflix. It's really a documentary that was split up into 3 episodes, but it's really a documentary, and it's called This is the Zodiac. I really enjoyed this. It starts out a little slow and you don't quite put it together, but then it really gets going, and it's riveting to me. And it's about these siblings who lived with the guy that is believed to be the Zodiac killer, and he's for sure the Zodiac killer. When you watch this thing, there is so much evidence, and it's so weird. It's so interesting.
It's I know you said it's more like it's a documentary, but is it a multi-part documentary or just a one-parter?
Well, so it's split up into 3 episodes, so it's under their TV shows, but it's really like an hour and 2-hour documentary. I also really liked, even though it came out in 2023, it wasn't nationally distributed till 2024, and that's Knox Goes Away. It stars Michael Keaton as this hitman that has been diagnosed with something that's like dementia or Alzheimer's, and he decides to do this one last job, and he's starting to lose it. And then he also gets back in touch with his estranged son who wants him to help him do away with someone. I just found this movie very interesting. I loved the idea of it. Thought it was very well executed. I'm a big Michael Keaton fan. I think Michael Keaton is still one of the great actors contemporary times.
I've heard, I like Michael Keaton too, but I've heard that he said that Beetlejuice is going to be the last film that he does where he's credited as Michael Keaton, and that going forward he wants to use his real name, which is Michael Douglas, and so he's going to be using Michael Keaton Douglas going forward. How do you feel about that?
Interesting. Well, I mean, I don't really care. I think Michael Douglas,
good for you.
He's like, what? He's in his early 80s. And is he really doing anything anymore? You rarely see him. You see him in some TV shows and so on. And I like him too. He's a great actor also. I love a lot of his stuff, but I don't, who cares if he's going by Michael? We'll know who he is. Now, one movie I wanted to criticize. This movie is getting so much rave reviews by all the woke movie critics, and that is Conclave. I hated this movie. It's super liberal, bizarre, and you can see what's going to happen, except for one twist that was ridiculous, but you can see what's going to happen a mile away, and it's basically they're picking a new pope, and of course the conservative cardinals and bishops and monsignors are they're all the bad guys. They even get an Islamic terrorist attack against the Vatican while they're picking the new pope. And of course, the archbishop that denounces that and denounces unlimited open borders immigration that causes a lot of this stuff and lets people in to do these things, he's the bad guy, he's the reactionary, and of course the liberals are much better. And then in the end, this guy, and you know he's going to get the votes for the Pope. It's this Hispanic guy who is the Archbishop of Afghanistan that nobody even knew existed. Of course, at the beginning, he gets almost no votes. You know he's going to get the votes. But at the end, I'm going to do a spoiler. I'm sorry. I have to do this. At the end, they pick him, and it turns out that he is really a she because he's intersex, just like that boxer in the Olympics, this Khalif person. And that leads me into another movie that's out for Christmas that I thought was such a bore, and it's being billed as a female Rocky. It's not. And it's called The Fire Inside. Actually, it's about Clarissa Shields, the Olympic gold medal winner from Michigan. I actually know her manager, who's an Orthodox Jew Russian immigrant named Dmitry Salia, who moved from New York to Michigan. This movie was so boring. It's no Rocky. I hated this movie. And beyond that, she's mad that women boxers don't get the same money as male boxers. Well, first of all, because nobody wants to watch women box. I'm sorry. Maybe a few people do.
I agree. I agree with you.
Most people want male boxers. They want to watch Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, however staged that is. And the other thing is, it's so dated for her to say, I want equal pay. What she should be fighting for is to be able to box against female boxers and not men. And so this movie seems ridiculous and dated. So I hated that movie. Do not see that. Another movie that I thought was decent or pretty good was let's see, A Complete Unknown. Oh, Wicked. I thought Wicked, I think we talked about Wicked.
Yeah, we talked about Wicked and Gladiator 2 last time you were here.
I really liked Wicked. I think it's if you like musicals, if you like Broadway plays, if you like campy stuff, it's for you. It was a little long, but of the movies this year, those were the ones.
All right,
that
so
were
we got The Substance, we got the Bob Dylan movie, Complete Unknown. We have My Old Ass. Those are Debbie recommendations.
Right. Another movie that I absolutely hated, and I have to tell you, skip at all costs, is this Nicole Kidman movie called Baby Girl.
I was going to ask you about that. I'm told it's quite erotic.
That's what they tell you. This was the most unsexiest movie I've ever seen.
See, I'm glad I asked.
I was bored to tears. I hated it. And half the theater, okay, I went there on Christmas Day. It was not screened for critics here in Detroit, and now I know why. It was awful. The theater was packed for this movie, and in the morning, we all went, a whole bunch of us, and half the people walked out. Half the people left because it was so bad. It's long, slow, boring, stupid, ridiculous. And by the way, Nicole Kidman, they make a thing in the movie about how the only good part was where her daughter, by the way, it's very woke. She has a lesbian daughter, and that's the only normal relationship in this movie. That's not completely dysfunctional. And her lesbian daughter makes fun of her that she looks like a fish because her lips are so Botoxified and injectified, and her face, there's so many close-ups of her injectified face. And anytime I've seen her in a movie in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, her face is so... It looks like a blow-up doll. I feel like if I can't put a needle anywhere near it or a pin, or it will pop open.
Debbie, before we run out of time, there's two things I have to ask you about, two films we have to ask you about before I run out of time. I am a huge Clint Eastwood fan. I have been for a long time, of both him as an individual and him as a filmmaker. This film that he has out now, which they say may be his last film, Juror Number 2. So far, the people that I've spoken to about it, they have not loved it. I'm going to watch it anyway, irrespective of what you say. But I'm wondering, what did you think of Juror Number 2?
I was underwhelmed, and I do think he's a great filmmaker. They say every film's his last only because he's, 93?
Exactly.
But I thought this movie was long, slow, and boring, and it's like half a movie. They never really, at the end of the movie, it's like, it didn't end the way it should have, and then it basically didn't end. And it's not believable, and it's totally rips off 12 Angry Men, but with the wrong result. So the story is that a guy gets called for jury duty. one night he had been driving before then, and he thought he hit a deer, and that was it. He didn't think anything of it. Then he finds out that actually the trial is this guy that's on trial for killing his girlfriend with his car, and it turns out that it was actually him, the juror, that did it, and he realizes this at the very beginning of the movie, and he tries to convince these jurors to not convict this guy because he knows that he's the one that did it, and other guy's innocent. But then it just totally rips you off, and there's not a payoff, and it's awful.
All right, well, that's
I
disappointing.
hated it.
Well, I'm going to see it anyway. But one movie that apparently no one liked, and once in a while you can be a little against the grain, and if you liked it, I'm sure you'll straighten us out. We didn't talk about it at the time it came out, but that's the Francis Ford Coppola epic Megalopolis. What did you think of that?
Long, slow, boring. I hated this movie. And by the way, when I saw it, they did this whole thing beforehand that was a live discussion with Coppola and a bunch of liberal celebrities, and they were all talking about how you have to vote against Trump and this and that, and they were making this movie about how it's all political. It was just a super boring movie, and I hated it. And there's a ton of big stars, and boy, were they wasted.
Debbie, I have to end it there. Have a great weekend. Happy Hanukkah. Come visit New York soon so we can hang.
All right. One last thing. If you have to take your kids to the movies, don't see Mufasa. It's a bore. See Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which actually was surprisingly funny.
Okay, that's good advice, actually. There's a lot of children that live on my block, and they will take that to heart. Thank you, Debbie Schlussel. Check her out, DebbieSchlussel.com. DebbieSchlussel.com, 646-720-0635, 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.